I told my husband I would never choose him as the father of my child. My husband Liam and I have 2 children, and I'm currently pregnant with our 3rd. Liam has so far been a wonderful husband and a fantastic father. I was out at brunch with a few friends of mine. I was telling them a funny story about my cravings and how Liam had made a cake from scratch for it. A friend of a friend named Paige said that I chose so well, and that she should have put as much thought as I did in choosing the one for her. I have a reputation for being really thorough and thinking things out before doing anything, the responsible one. I told her that I never would have chosen Liam to be the father of our first child, but I am so grateful he was. I was very lucky. Our pre-marriage life was messy. I was with another man, Dave. Dave was a steady, reliable man, and we had been together for years. Dave made a new friend who was Liam, and I could not help but absolutely him. According to him, Liam made Dave feel young again, and he was desperate to reclaim the sense of youth he lost by being responsible since he was young. He spent all of his time with Liam and other guys. Dave would spend every night out partying until 3 a.m. He spent his entire paycheck and some of my paychecks on wrestling videos and online gambling. He bought a motorcycle. He used our savings to buy crypto. He shaved his head bald. The last straw was him spending $20,000 of my savings to travel. Throughout this, Liam was incredibly disrespectful to me. Dave broke up with me when I asked him to stop hanging out with Liam and his other friends. I told my husband I would never choose him as the father of my child. He immediately moved in with a girl I had concerns about. I felt deeply hurt, and for the first time in my life, I felt like hurting someone in return. I was miserable, out of my mind, and called Liam over. I wanted to ruin their friendship like he ruined my relationship. He was annoyed at Dave for something else and was down for anything. I woke up the next morning realizing that I made a huge mistake, but Liam had also pounded me till kingdom come and away. Dave never could. Unfortunately, my bad decision caught up to me and I got pregnant. Ironic since I had always wanted children, but I was told I was infertile. Both Liam and I were against children out of wedlock, and we had a small wedding. I was ready to grit my teeth and make the best of our marriage, but surprisingly, Liam turned out to be an incredible partner and father. If it was a mistake, it was the best mistake of my life. Paige was very offended that I said Liam wouldn't in my choice initially. She messaged Liam to tell him what I said. I was a nervous wreck about this, and was worried about how Liam would react. Fortunately, a few hours later, Paige apologized for overstepping and reached out to me. She was having a rough time in her own relationship and felt I was being ungrateful, as my boyfriend, unlike hers, never put something into my drinks or laid hands on me. I also checked up on Liam. I asked him if he felt hurt by what I said. He said he was deeply offended, and I should make up for it with 1,000 kisses plus interest starting right now. My stepdad turned my family against me. So let me start this off by saying I apologize for how long this may be. My dad passed when I was 15. Him and my mom weren't all that close by that time, so while it hit me hard, she wasn't as fazed as you'd expect. I joined the military when I was 17, and in my first year out of the house, my mom remarried. I never really vibed with him, just had different personalities and such. He would often make snide remarks and tell me to man up about any inconvenience I'd be upset about. This led to spats between us, and I was often just as at fault as he was for these disagreements, so it never got too serious. I got medically discharged after a little under 5 years, and my mom and him said they'd be happy to have me back in the house. I told them it'd be brief, just until I got on my feet and got a job, and even offered to pay rent, to which they declined. About 3 days into being back home, my stepdad went alone with me, asked what he thought a fair rent would be. I was confused, but it was his house, so we came to an agreement, and I kept it from my mom, assuming he did not want her to know, as he never mentioned it around her. I never asked for anything from them, not out of spite. I just wanted to do things myself. He had a son from a previous marriage. Him and I didn't share many common interests or anything, but I never had any issues with him. I'd say we got along. The only thing is, he was given a lot from them. Paid for his schooling, paid for his car, paid for his living arrangements, through college, and even after. I was a little less than a year older than him. So he started college right after they married. Like I said, I didn't want or need the help, but it felt lame that he'd get all that assistance, and I was immediately asked for rent, but I digress. I moved out after 3 months, and not long after met a girl who I was crazy about, and we started dating. It was my first relationship, and I was over the moon the entire time. Like in that early relationship haze, but it was just constant. I was very nervous to bring her home. My mom and I were very close, and I always worried she'd be very judgmental of a girl I'd bring home. My worries ended up being unwarranted. They got along extremely well. My girlfriend does not have a family, really. Long story. So my mom and stepdad became like that for her. Her and my mom hit it off extremely well to the point they were hanging out just the two of them at times. My stepdad turned my family against me. And it made me extremely happy. My stepdad even really liked her, and I felt it brought us closer together, which isn't something I felt I wanted until we were. His dad abandoned his family growing up, and he put himself through school and got a nice high-paying job all by himself, which I had immense respect in him for. About a year, and I knew this was the girl I was going to marry. I told my mom and stepdad, and they both seemed extremely happy. She was practically part of the family already. My mom gave me her engagement ring, my dad gave her, which she kept. The job I had didn't pay great, so I figured even if it wasn't the ring she'd always have, it'd be a great placeholder. When I proposed, my girlfriend told me it wasn't a placeholder, and she absolutely loved it. I was legitimately never happier in my life. We started wedding planning, and my mom and stepdad said they'd help take care of the finances. It was the first time they'd offered to help me financially, and it really meant a lot. Fast forward to about 3 months later, I get a call from my stepdad who said I needed to come over. Felt a bit ominous, but I went over there after work. When I got there, my mom, stepdad, stepbrother, and fiancé. I saw her on the couch, and could tell she had been crying. I immediately thought someone had died, and went to go sit next to her when my stepdad stopped me. He started hitting me with accusations of me cheating on her for our entire relationship. I was puzzled and told everyone there I don't even text any women I'm not related to besides her. Apparently, some girl had gotten my fiancé's number and told her that we were sleeping together for over a year now, but she didn't know I was in a committed relationship. She sent her screenshots of alleged conversations and knew stuff about me that a random person wouldn't know. I, like a fool, couldn't see what was happening in front of me. I was stunned, saddened, and furious. I begged her from across the room to look at my phone and see I'd never done any of that. Her and my mother were both weeping, and I started to cry. My stepdad called me every word he could think of and escorted me out of the house while telling me if he saw me on his property again, he'd call the police. I spent the next several weeks trying to contact them to no avail. Calls, texts, voicemails, every messaging app out there. Nothing. My stepdad turned my family against me. After those weeks, I got a call from my stepdad who told me to stop trying to contact her, and that I was never welcome in his house or around his family again. I tried to call my mother over this time to no avail as well. After about a month, all I got from anyone was a text from my mother saying how sad and disappointed she was. My mom didn't really have much family, so they always spent holidays with my stepdad's side. They all shunned me as well. I saw their Christmas pictures on Facebook with my ex-fiancé present and seemingly in good spirits, which crushed me. The only family I had that would talk to me at all was my dad's brother and his family. Despite that even, they all seemed wary of me too. The only one that I think truly believed me was my uncle. I don't think I'd have made it without him, honestly. He showed me what I'd been missing in fatherly love, and I've never been so grateful for anyone. About 6 months after it all, I moved away from the East Coast and settled out in California, needing to get away from it all. A little less than a year after I moved, I got call from an area, code from back home, which I rarely got anymore. I picked up and it was my stepbrother, whom I promptly hung up on. He called me back and I ignored it, but it stuck with me all day. I decided that if he called back again, I'd pick up, which he did later that night. It was awkward at best. He told me my fiancé was really torn up for a long time. It took her nearly a year to even start looking again for a significant other. I hadn't at all since it ended. A few months into her doing so, my stepdad encouraged him to ask her on a date, which he did. Things went okay for the first couple outings but never really clicked apparently. He told my stepdad about that, and the idiot told him, "I didn't get rid of Op for nothing, she's a great girl, you need to figure it out with her." I almost collapsed, and it was quickly replaced with anger. Apparently, he had gotten a girl, I still don't know who, to pose as someone I had an affair with and forged some message screenshots to have her sent to my fiancé. He told me he'd said it to him about a month ago, and he didn't know what to do. Apparently it bothered him enough that he couldn't just sit on the info anymore, so he told me and said he was going to tell my mom and fiancé the next day. He called me first as a courtesy, so he knew what to say to them regarding me. Am I the a-hole for not waking up early and helping my mother-in-law with chores? I, F25, has been married for a year now. It is customary in our culture that women stay with their in-laws after marriage. I didn't subscribe to this and told my husband, then boyfriend, before marriage itself that I want to live separately. He agreed since he himself wanted to live away from parents and build his own life. But as a compromise, we would still visit them and stay at their place every couple of months. It is again customary. Dill helps mother-in-law with household tasks, the stench of patriarchy. In our house, that is mine and husband's, we are equals. We do chores together. In in-law's place, it's always his mom who does majority of chores. She was a psalm too. When I am visiting, I am expected to help her with the chores, not my husband, just me. I just rope him in as well. The main issue is that everyone there wakes up at 5:36 a.m. That's way too early for me even on days when I have work. Since we go there on my off days, I just want to sleep in. At least till 8 to 9 a.m. Initially they didn't say much about this, just a bit of snide comments that I let go. Use my own battles and all. But today morning, my mother-in-law made a big show of how I never help her with chores. Let me clarify. She wakes at 6 a.m. and finishes most tasks by 9 a.m. By the time I am awake, it's all done. I help prep, but that doesn't count to her. The fact I don't slave away in kitchen is making her mad. When she went on a whole woe on me act, my husband, who normally supports me, also got mad at me. He asked why I couldn't wake up few days out of a month earlier than I want to and help his mom. When I said he can help his mom himself since he wakes up anyway, he said that's not the point. He said he doesn't ask much of me, and this is least I can do. Respect his parents when we are staying under their roof. I got mad and told him, I don't want to stay under their roof, and neither do I have to. With that, I just packed my bags and left that place. Am I the a-hole for not waking up early and helping my mother-in-law with chores? Now my parents and husband are blasting my phone for overreacting. Am I the a-hole? 'Cause I see a lot of comments asking me to help my mother-in-law. No one has anywhere to be. It's literally the weekend. There's no requirement for things to be done by that time, other than the fact it is how we do here. And I help her meal prep, cut veggies and everything the night before. I clean the house too, roping in my husband as well, though we literally visit for 2 days. Also to people who commented I shouldn't go then, my initial agreement, before marriage with them and my husband was that I wouldn't go. I work full-time in a different city. I want to relax on weekends. They kept calling, begging and guilt-tripping. I finally agreed to visit, as in, 1 weekend a month. We go there Friday after office and return Sunday night. That's literally the entire weekend and duration of stay. If I wasn't there, I would be sleeping until 12 noon of after. Husband knows this well. As I respect his home, I am getting at 8-9. It feels like yet another working day to me. Getting at 6 a.m. is like overtime on already hectic 12-day week. To all who are guessing, yes, I am Indian. From Kerala, to be precise. And yeah, I know many other cultures have this in common. Reading each of your stories makes me sadder and braver at the same time. To everyone who is saying you know what you married into, now do as they want. A bit of backstory. I am from the same culture they are. I grew up seeing my mom work harder hours than my dad, get home later and using crowded public transport while my dad used own vehicle, and then make tea for him. It sounds very simple. A tea, right? It's not. It's coming on struggling in public transport, and as soon as you reach having to go, Make tea for a man who has reached home from his job 10 minutes away in own vehicle. Make him tea and dinner while he watched TV. I know the fight she fought and fate she accepted. I know even after 30 years of marriage she is upset I called out my innocent husband on his baby behavior. He throws tantrums and hits people when they don't agree with him. Poor baby. I, 29 Canadian, met my, now, husband, 29, Egyptian Canadian, in early 2021 via a dating app. But we had mutual friends already, same university. I quickly fell for him and after a year we got engaged. 2 months later, we had our Kapatub Nikah Islamic ceremony. It was very small, immediate family only. Our wedding reception is in 1 week, 4.5 months after the Kapatub. There is obviously a fair amount of stress, as we're stretched pretty thin, to make the wedding work shortly after purchasing our first home. My husband is in a new job, and I'm in a famously high-stress job. I definitely acknowledge I have not been my best self lately, trying to make ends meet and get myself through each day, frankly. On to the red flag. My husband is a charismatic, funny guy. He's loud, as am I. His personality has been something I've loved about him since I met him. But lately there's less humor and more commentary on world politics, sometimes right-wing conspiracy, or what I would call conspiracy, type stuff. It's preachy. When I engage, it quickly becomes a fight, seemingly regardless of my stance. When I take issue with his tone and personal attacks, I get yelled at or told I'm purposefully vilifying him. He's starting to shout at me more often. Today it was in front of his whole family. It was humiliating. I cried. It was over me pushing back when his family told me they had already done the seating chart for their guests, despite not having the entire guest list. I called out my innocent husband on his baby behavior. I did not think I was being rude, but I just explained that I needed to work off the draft I had because I knew it had all guests on it. I was reassuring her she could rearrange tables if I got stuff wrong. My husband interjected himself from the next room shouting at me for saying his mom didn't know everyone that was coming. Then he shouted that he wasn't shouting. We were shouting. I shouldn't have. But I called him out on his immaturity. I called him out for yelling in front of our nephews, 971, who were there. I told him to stay out of it if he was going to yell. We finished the seating chart, and I left to stay with my parents. We are visiting from out of town. It's been 5 hours since the incident, and I haven't heard from my husband. When I left, I gave everyone a quick hug goodbye, including my husband. He didn't walk me to my car. He's been shouting at me more at home, too. I avoid certain topics altogether. It got physical once, and he put his hand on my throat. He apologized profusely for this and blamed it on frustration at my poor memory during an argument we were having. Sometimes he pushes me, which I find super embarrassing in public. He shoves me out of the way if I go to pay at the store, despite us often alternating who pays. I have verbalized that my parents don't treat each other that way. I have told him I don't want to be treated that way. I have explicitly said, don't shout at me, don't push me, threatened to involve his older brothers. I'm sure I'm extra upset right now for a handful of reasons: wedding stress, menses not praying, work stress, but I'm starting to worry that I'm being willfully blind here. I think my mom slept with my high school boyfriend. My boyfriend and I started dating when I was 14 and he was 17. We dated for like 3 months in high school and broke up. He then dated one of my best friends and told me he'd break up with her if I date him again, so being young and naive I did. So we dated for like another year. I had to move across the country with my family. This time it was a super messy breakup. We were in the middle of fighting over text, and he messaged saying, "You know what? I slept with your mom," and sent a picture as proof. I briefly looked at the picture, enough to be like, "Yep, that looks like my mom," and then deleted it and blocked him. I didn't want to believe it, so I just didn't think about it. So I just locked that away for about 10 years. I'm now married to the love of my life and have 2 young kids. We live far from my mom, and she came to visit and drove here. We only see her once a year. While she was here, she kept lying about small things, just small little lies here and there. But it bothered me. After she left, it boiled over, and I called her out and told her I don't appreciate being lied to, especially about dumb things that don't matter. It escalated, and I hung up on her. She then makes a group chat with me and my husband and sends another message about how she didn't lie. but that she has to lie because she knows how I'll act weird if she does not make up these little lies. I messaged back, "Okay, liar." She then sends a text about something I said 2 years ago when I was complaining about my husband's family to her. This made me see red, because I feel like that's why she made a group chat with me and my husband, so she could send that to him. I don't know if it was to hurt me by hurting him, to make him mad at me so I'm fighting a war on two fronts, or to get my husband on her side of the argument. I think my mom slept with my high school boyfriend. Either way, I lost it. I told her I know she slept with my high school boyfriend. She proceeds to keep texting me about how she's an adult and I'm not her mom, and it doesn't matter why she lies to me or what she's doing. She ignores the thing about sleeping with my ex. So I send it again, like 2 more times, before she's finally like, "Stop sending that crap to my phone," and then tells me I'm crazy and need medication. So since then, I've been no contact with her. I do believe she slept with my ex, but also I'm worried about if he was lying and said that to ruin our relationship. It's something I've ignored for 10 years, but now that I've said it aloud, so many things make sense. When we first dated, she went through my phone and read my messages with him to my aunt, and they made fun of me at Thanksgiving. Back when I was still dating him, but after we moved across the country, she went through my phone and read our dirty texts aloud at the dinner table. And I always wondered why she did that. She has always been weird with my exes. Every guy I've dated, she keeps them friended on Snapchat and messages them after we break up and updates me on what they're up to. My ex was crazy. He dated my best friend to get back at me, so I 100% could see him sleeping with my mom just so he could use it as ammo against me later. My mom is a narcissist. My older brother is no contact with her and has been for 3 years now. So here's my issue. Where do I go from here? I know she's going to try to reach out and deny it, but she lies about everything, so I know I won't believe her. I really don't know how she could prove her innocence to me. Even if my ex reached out and told me he was lying and made it up, I would just think she messaged him and paid him off. My sister used her emotional trauma to get close to my husband. My sister Lisa lost her husband Jimmy 2 years ago in a motorcycle accident. A year ago, she reached out to us and told us she was having a hard time adjusting and said that she needed help. I helped her find a good therapist and she has been getting her life back on track. My husband Rick felt bad for her and started spending a lot of time with her. For the past 6 months, they have spent more and more time together. At first I was fine with it because she was finally becoming like my sister again. She started smiling. I was so happy for her, and so was my husband. They started spending more time alone, and I got a little jealous. I told my husband I would like it if we could spend more time together and that I was feeling a little neglected. He said okay, but nothing changed. Today my sister came to my house crying because she had a dream about Jimmy. My husband and I comforted her, but I was a little annoyed because the second I let her in my house, she ran into my husband's arms. We all went into the living room and sat down. My husband asked her what happened in the dream, and she actually asked me to leave the room because she didn't feel comfortable telling me. I was so upset at this point, I immediately left and started tearing up in the other room. I was in the other room for around 10 minutes when I heard a loud sound in the living room, so I got up and went there. I could not believe what I saw. They were having intimacy on my couch in our home. I ran out of the room because I was going to vomit right there and locked myself in my room. Rick walked into the room an hour later, still topless, and wouldn't even look at me. He mumbled something and sat on the bed. I was so angry that he wouldn't even look at me that I almost left right there. I asked him what the heck was going on with him and my sister. He sat there for a few minutes without saying anything while I was crying my eyes out, until I finally yelled at him to answer me. My sister used her emotional trauma to get close to my husband. He whispered that he loved her. At this point, I lost it. I started yelling, how could he do this to me? Do these past 10 years mean nothing to him? Literally dropped to my knees and asked, how could he betray me with my own sister and then tell me he loves her? He was quiet the entire time until I stopped yelling. He said that he had been regretting not experimenting with other women before we got married, and that he shouldn't have married the first girl he was with. I was stunned and asked if he ever even loved me. He said yes, but that after spending time with my sister, he realized she is who he wants to be with. I had no words. I didn't have any clue what to say. All my life was falling apart in front of my eyes, and I was scared. I told him I might be pregnant, and he said that he would think about supporting me. Then he said he was leaving me to be with my sister. He apologized to me and told me I deserve better than him, and that he will do whatever he can to help me and the baby, and if I agree to divorce him, he will give me everything he just wants out of our marriage. In that moment, I felt like I hated him and never wanted to see him again, so I screamed at him, "Fine, just get the F out. You ruined my life. I hope you are effing happy, you piece of crap." And then he had the audacity to try to hug me. I flipped out and pushed him off of me. Someone knocked on the door, then he told me that he still loved me and we would figure everything out, and left. I decided to call my parents and tell them what happened. My mom dropped a bombshell on me that my sister told her that she had feelings for my husband and that she wanted to be with him. Why she didn't tell me this, I have no clue, but I feel like everyone is against me. Am I the a-hole for not waking up early and helping my mother-in-law with chores? Won't make her a cup of coffee. Not 'cause he doesn't know how to, 'cause that's not how it is done. Sad for her, my grandma also lives with her. I have seen every aspect of toxic patriarchy and how it influences the life of a woman. I had front seat view of I May. I decided early on in life I don't want to get married. Then comes my DH. He was a friend of mine who grew up in a family deeply rooted in patriarchy too. His mom was Psalm, despite having higher degree than his dad. She couldn't work 'cause they relocated every few years for his work. DH used to tell me fond memory where his dad took him to work on Sunday. He didn't realize it was 'cause his mom was exhausted and needed a break until I pointed it out. He saw patriarchy and its effects only after he met me. It was slow growth, but he did grow. I told him point blank I don't want to marry, 'cause marriage law sucks, and the expectations from a girlfriend is widely different than wife. He wanted to marry me for fear of losing me. His parents wanted me to marry him for fear of him losing me and breaking down on that. My parents wanted to marry me off citing reasons such as needing to see my marriage before they die. And while I don't like that emotional blackmailing, I knew if I refused and God forbid something happened to either of them, I would hate myself for the rest of my life. Before marriage, I made it clear to everyone I refuse to be a traditional wife and Dill. I will be an equal partner to DH, that's it. They all agreed to this, hence why I got married. Rest of the begging to visit and expectations of work came after the marriage, bait and switch mode. Maybe they thought I would agree to everything once I married him. I did compromise, so he gets a good relationship with his parents. I help out at their house. But going to this extreme is in complete violation of our agreement, yes. My culture demands a lot from Dill, and I am getting the best possible deal. But more importantly, I didn't subscribe to this culture. I told them already I refused to. They accepted it. And now they want me to succumb to it. My very irresponsible sister is pregnant, and my mother is bribing her to keep it. My sister Sophia and I have never had a good relationship with each other. Sophia came to me yesterday and announced she was pregnant, at 12 years old. I didn't believe her at first. She had a tendency to lie for attention, so my first thought was that she was trying to get a reaction out of me. I said she's not pregnant, that she's too young, and shouldn't even be having intimacy at her age to begin with, but she insisted, so I decided to drop it and move along with my day. That was until I overheard a conversation between my mother and my sister. My mother was talking to Sophia about how to avoid unwanted pregnancies in the future. I could not believe what I was hearing, but I didn't let it get to me. As irresponsible and stupid as she was, this wouldn't mean anything later. I thought she wasn't keeping the baby. I might be wrong. But then, my mother texted my sister asking her to keep the baby. In exchange, she'd buy her a new iPhone. I thought Sophia would be a donkey to take that offer. Ruin her future for what? A phone? Really? But Sophia came to me and told me about what my mom said. I told her the truth. It's a stupid offer, and we have no room for a baby in the house. Due to the housing crisis in our area, my sister and I have had to share a room with each other for the past 6 years. The room is cramped, with no space to add any more furniture. We were hardly able to fit 2 beds and 2 dressers into the room. Adding a third person, especially a newborn baby, would be insane. And I didn't tell her this part, but my sister would be a horrible, awful parent. She has massive anger issues. My very irresponsible sister is pregnant, and my mother is bribing her to keep it. She picks fights with everyone she knows. It got so bad that the police had come to our apartment multiple times because she was sending bomb threats. I have bruises on my body from her slapping me with an electrical cord because I was voice chatting with my friends on Discord at 4 p.m., which was too loud because she's watching TikTok. So, what would she do to a poor baby who won't stop crying? Slap it too? The thought of it makes me sick. And what would happen if she had twins? I might just go insane if we had 2 babies to deal with. And I know I'd be stuck with most of the parenting. My mother hates babies, and couldn't even take proper care of me as an infant. If I cried, she'd feed me and hope I shut up. So, knowing my family's opinion on babies and my sister's lack of income, I'm the next person to take responsibility for an infant. I'm trying to get a new part-time job to save up for university. I would not be surprised if my family wanted me to pay for baby supplies and start taking care of the child. And I don't want that. I don't want my sister's baby because she was irresponsible while having intimacy. This child will end up having a miserable, broken life no matter what happens after it's born, and that's cruel. Therefore, I don't want my sister to have this baby. I don't want her to carry it to term. She's only around 2 weeks pregnant, so there's plenty of time to get a termination. I need to get this off my chest, but I want nothing more than for this child to not be born, no matter what. Pretending not to recognize my parents when they tried to reconnect. I was raised mostly by my uncle and aunt. My older sister developed a serious illness when I was 6, and my parents decided that they couldn't care for both of us, I guess. So they kind of unceremoniously dumped me at my grandparents, and my uncle took me in. Like, didn't even explain to me what was going on, just, you're going to go visit Gran for a while and never pick me back up. My grandparents and uncle explained it later, and they were pretty livid at my parents. I've seen my parents maybe 5 times since then, and not at all for the last 9 years. I decided to stop having contact with them when I was 12, and since I was the only one reaching out, all communication broke down. It turned out okay. I love my aunt and uncle, and it turns out they can't have kids, so they've always said I'm their miracle kid. I was just misrouted by the stork at first. I was formally adopted by them when I turned 18. I wish it had been earlier, but there were some red tape things that would have made that really expensive and difficult. I'm 21 now. My sister passed away between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and I made a trip back from school for the funeral, but I stayed in the back and left before my bio parents could talk to me. They called my uncle to try to talk to me, but I said I didn't want to, so he told them that I wasn't available at the moment. They finally caught up to me over Christmas when I went to midnight mass with my gran, and approached me and tried to give me a hug. I did recognize them, but I pretended not to and just backed off and said, "Sorry, do I know you?" They said, "We're your parents." And I said, "My parents are at home," and went and sat down with my gran. They sat behind us and I could just feel the stare, and on the way out they were like, "You really don't recognize us?" And I said, "Oh, are you my dad's brother? I think I remember you from when I was little." My gran thinks they deserved it trying to come back to me like nothing happened, but they wrote me a long letter about how hurt they are and how I should understand that they were trying to do the right thing and how they'll always be my parents and I can't change that. Other family members think I was too harsh as they're grieving, but I don't think they should get a pass just because they remembered me now that my sister is gone. Parents of a beaten-up student wants to get my license revoked after I saved their son. This happened literally last Monday. For context, I'm a teacher, and I teach senior students. I am advising a class of STEM students, and handles all STEM and senior high subjects. Monday class starts like every Monday class, flag ceremony, went to classes, etc. At recess, I noticed that some teachers are talking to some grade 8 students VALP. I don't know that time that they're grade 8 students, it looked like they were up to no good, but I didn't bother to intervene because we're professionals and trained to deal with those kind of stuff. After the classes, I was facilitating the cleaning of my classroom, and almost always goes home at almost 5 p.m. after most of the students and other teacher has gone off. I ride a motorcycle going to work. We own a car, but rarely use it because it's impractical with the gas prices. My work is at least 9 kilometers or 6 miles away from home. As I was going home, noticed a bunch of our students forming a circle. Not sure of the term, but there are a bunch of them in an area. about 5 to 6 of them in a waiting shed, and seemed to be hitting something. It got my curiosity stopped and turned back to see what they're up to. When I called them, they all ran away, panicked as they recognized me. I immediately saw a kid lying down the pavement and blood flowing. I rushed to the kid and checked if his breathing put him to a recovery position, to his side, as I noticed his nose bleeding, a cut on his forehead, swollen left eye, and other bruises. I opened the underseat box from my motorcycle and got a cloth tied it with the rubber I had to his forehead. Called the emergency response. The kid woke up at this point and I told him to just lay down. Some bystanders noticed me as I yelled for help. I asked them if they knew the kid's parents, and some of them recognized the kid and immediately ran to their house for his parents. After about 10 minutes, an ambulance came, and as the ambulance came, I stood aside as they removed the cloth bandage I put on his forehead. Parents of a beaten-up student wants to get my license revoked after I save their son. They asked me some questions, and I told them the story. The parents arrived panicked, the mother was crying, and they went with the paramedics. I haven't had any update that day. Went home, told my wife the story, and she kinda teased me because I saved someone today. That's her way of saying she's proud of me. I was trained as an emergency responder, and yes, I was proud of that. Today, I was attending a seminar when I got a call from my school head. The parents of the kid wanted to file a case against me because I didn't interfere earlier. I didn't do anything to avoid this conflict. As a teacher, I should know how to mitigate situations like this. I was negligent as a teacher. I did not prioritize the safety of their child, and they claimed they contacted a lawyer, telling them that the school or me should be the one paying the hospital bills because it was our fault this happened, or else they'll file a case. Turns out, the students I saw that some teachers are talking to are the ones who beat up the kid. And the other teachers believed their stories that they were just talking that time. The kid's name is Alvin, not real name, and he was a shy kid with problems with his left eye. He was getting bullied because of that, and now, the doctor said that he may never see with that eye again. It broke my heart. Tomorrow I should be attending the second day of my seminar. But I will go talk to the parents, straighten things up. I understand that they're just run by their emotions. I know I didn't do anything wrong. I don't even know their kid up to that point, and it happened outside the school parameter, so the school have no authority or obligations. I'm not pointing any blame to others. I just kind of feel guilty, knowing that what if I talked to the students earlier that Monday? I don't know, maybe I could have handled things better. My sister is having her dream wedding in a month. She won't invite me if I bring my boyfriend of 5 years. I met my boyfriend 5 years ago and we started dating. He is super close and loving with my family, and was there for my family's special occasions. My sister has been with her fiancé for 2 years and engaged for 6 months. She is the type of girl who has dreamed of getting married since she was a little girl. It didn't matter who proposed, she just wanted to be married. In the beginning of her relationship, she tricked me into going on a double date with her fiancé and his brother. She had said it was dinner with her and a friend, and it was most definitely not. The brother kept making very inappropriate passes at me the whole time, and I told him I had a boyfriend, and the whole situation made me uncomfortable. At dinner, while I was going to the bathroom, fiancé's brother followed me and tried to touch me. I told my sister, but she sided with her fiancé's brother and didn't believe me. At their engagement party, my boyfriend noticed that the brother wouldn't stop staring at me, and we tried our best to avoid him. Every time I have seen this guy, he has been weird towards me. My sister wanted me, my twin and 2 brothers at her wedding. The wedding is supposed to be next month in the beginning of May. My sister just told me that I'm going to be walking down the aisle with her fiancé's brother. I told her that he makes me uncomfortable and he touched me. I said that I thought I would be walking with my own brother. Apparently this is something her fiancé is insisting on, and she wants to make him happy. Seems like a pretty weird thing to insist. And I know it's some scheme between the 2 brothers. My sister is having her dream wedding in a month. She won't invite me if I bring my boyfriend of 5 years. My other siblings also thought it was weird and voiced their objections to our sister. She got upset and said, this is her wedding and she'll do what she wants. I told my boyfriend this and he was upset for me. He's confident enough in himself that he knows this guy would never be competition, but he knows how uncomfortable I am with this situation. The other day we had family dinner at my mom's house. I took this as an opportunity to bring up the aisle situation with my mother around. I refrained from mentioning the touching as that was a while ago. Besides, I have already told my sister and hinted at it to my parents, but nothing was ever done. I just talked about the aisle situation. My sister got extremely upset and started crying, saying I was trying to ruin her marriage. I was so confused, as was everyone else, and tried to explain that he makes me and my boyfriend extremely uncomfortable. She then said that I can't bring my boyfriend to her wedding anymore, and if I do, then I'm no longer a bridesmaid. She gave no reason as to why I can't bring him, and my siblings were just as upset considering they like my boyfriend a lot better than my sister's fiancé. I thought I would give her a few days to calm down and rethink, but she has not changed her mind. My 19-year-old brother's girlfriend is still invited to the wedding. My boyfriend is an incredible guy and has been nothing but kind and generous to my sister. His feelings are hurt, but he still wants me to go to the wedding. I think my sister is being an unreasonable a-hole, and I will be pretty ticked off at the wedding if my life partner is not there with me. I don't know what to do, and my family is no help either.